on the Just Baseball Show. Today is Tuesday, June 7th. Jack McMullen, Peter Apple. Good evening to you, Peter.
Yes.
It's 5:09. It's the evening time.
Yes. So we were arguing about this earlier, and I would love, because we're going to post this podcast on our Twitter tomorrow at Just BB Media. I would love to see some comments because Jack and I were arguing, what is evening? What is afternoon?
Right.
Not totally sold on, is 6 p.m. evening? Is 5 p.m. evening? Jack and I were both talking about it because at the beginning of this, I said, good evening. So have you come to a conclusion? For me, I'm thinking 5:30 officially goes into evening. Anything before kind of after 2 p.m.-ish is the afternoon. I think I'm set on that, but you have a different opinion.
So pre-noon is the morning. Noon to 5 is the afternoon. And I think 5:01 on is the evening.
The problem is I'm in New York City right now. Blue skies. It's 5:10. How can it be evening?
Gray skies in Indianapolis.
Still technically the day, though, because if it was sunny, blue skies.
Yeah, you make a nice point.
Switching to wintertime, days get shorter. Maybe does afternoon switch with the time? Congress
said we're done with that. Congress said we're done with daylight savings. We're good.
Are we going to make a government joke about how they don't do anything? Or should we?
No, I was thinking another non-baseball thing quick, and then we get to the baseball things too. Sometimes I think that like, hey, I'm a cool guy, like I could be fun at parties, that type of thing. And then somewhat. I take a step back this morning and I say to myself, Jack, you're watching SpongeBob while using an elliptical machine.
Yeah.
SpongeBob on the elliptical. I'm not cool. Like nobody wants to hang out with me.
You're right. Like you're just right. Like I was going to make a joke. Nope. You're just right.
Yeah. I took the step back. I was at the Y, really nice Y in downtown Indy. And I just I think for a moment, oh my God, like I really need to check myself. I got to be listening to like some cool person music or something right now. But SpongeBob on the elliptical was my move.
We're a very self-aware pod. We know our strengths and our weaknesses.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your weakness?
I've said this before. My weakness is I get too fired up about a player, and then I'll start saying that he's amazing when it's like he had 4 home runs in like 2 weeks.
Right, but like Danny Duffy?
Yeah, like I get over the moon excited about guys that I start spewing out too much positivity. And what that brings me to is I'm almost too much of an optimist that I can't see through some things. Yeah. Normally it works out, but it can not work out.
Yeah, so if you guys heard that correctly, Peter's fatal flaw is that he's too happy, and mine is that I'm a goober weirdo.
I have plenty more weaknesses, but not worthy to go over on the pod.
Yeah, we can talk about baseball. We've got some guys that we think are flying under the radar. Again, just guys that need more love because we love shouting out the guys that need more love. We've got 2 pitchers, 2 hitters each. But first, 3 of the best hitters in baseball are not performing like the best hitters in baseball. And when we talk best hitters in baseball at the moment on June 7th, we're talking about Yordan Alvarez and Mookie Betts and Paul Goldschmidt. We're not talking about, JD Martinez, Rafael Devers. We're not talking about, which is super weird because last week we would have been talking about Trout like this, but at this very moment, we're not talking about Mike Trout like this. We're not talking about Ronald Acuna Jr. like this. We're not talking about Vladdy Jr. like this. We're not talking about Shohei Ohtani like this. And we're not talking about Juan freaking Soto like this. It's bizarre. So let's touch on those 5, and then we'll get to the guys that we think need more love.
It's absolutely bizarre that when we're talking about best hitters in baseball, maybe the 5 that you would rank at the beginning of the season are nowhere near the best hitters in baseball currently right now statistically. Let's talk about Mike Trout for a second, because on Just Baseball Stats and Info, which is a great new Twitter follow for you guys, we'll drop that in the episode description. It's our guy Colby, and we have 2 of our interns on it as well, giving you the best stats possible. It's called JB Stats and Info.
Both interns' names are Matt, by the way, so it's great. You can't screw it up. It's either Colby or Matt.
The Matts and Colby are giving you all the stats, and this was a great one that they pulled up. Mike Trout is in the worst slump of his career. Now 0 for his last 28 plate appearances. Trout has only reached base twice since May 29th. This is June 7th we're talking about. The superstar now has the worst slash line of his career by far. And that slash line is 278, 380, 585. So still good, clearly. Mike Trout is still good. That's what we're splitting hairs here. But a guy like Juan Soto, he's got an OPS under 850. Heating up, like you said, it was like, should we put Juan Soto in the discussion? Like, yeah, we look at the 230 batting average and we say, yeah, right now he is not hitting like he should be. Another guy. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so Trout, like, I'm going to take a 955 OPS if he's having the worst year of his career right now.
Yeah, we're just talking about it right now because it's current, and the fact that Trout has never gone on the streak in his entire career. And they play Michael Wacha. They play the Red Sox tonight because we're recording on Monday to be released on Tuesday. So he could just break out of this completely and have 3 home runs. But this is just what we're dealing with right now. Again, we harped on Vladdy's performance, but he's another guy. 816, 820 OPS at the time of recording. Not very good. We were going to add Ronald Acuna Jr. into this, but he's kind of doing really well.
Yeah.
So we can't really put him in this. But Shohei Ohtani, another guy, OPS under 800.
Yeah.
We'll see. Shohei Ohtani's getting hotter, and all these guys will. But right now, the best hitters in baseball are not the best hitters in baseball.
Let's run you through Soto, though. 56 games. He's hitting 228 with a 371 OBP. The 371 OBP isn't even top 10 in baseball right now. And we were thinking Juan Soto is going to set an OBP record this year because nobody's going to pitch to him. He leads all of baseball in walks, but he's not impacting the baseball like we've come to expect from Juan Soto. Last year in 151 games, he hit 313. We thought 313 was here to stay. He's hitting 228. When he was a 20-year-old rookie in 2018, he hit 292. Like, he's got to be so much better than 228. And he had a 406 OBP that year. 371's not going to cut it. Now, 45 walks and 39 punch-outs is great. Yes,
yeah, he's still
you're walking
amazing.
a shit ton. You're walking really more than you're striking out.
Yeah.
and an 831 OPS is still very well above average. An 831 OPS is borderline all-star.
Yes.
But we're not asking Juan Soto to be a borderline all-star anymore. We're asking him to set an OBP record.
Yes. That's exactly it. And that's why we're splitting hairs here. And that's why we're kind of getting on these guys. And Juan Soto's struggles do not start and end at the plate check. Have you looked at the defensive metrics?
Yeah, they're not good.
Bad. Not like okay. And it's funny because Juan Soto was placed in the MVP discussion for good reason, and just by the bat alone, he probably could. But at the end of the day, he is a corner outfielder, so it's all about his bat. But we need some defense out of him. And when he moved over from right field or from left field to right field, the odds above average were great. He was one of the best defensive right fielders by the metrics last year. This year, he's playing some more left field, and he's one of the worst defenders in the outfield right now. And this outfield, there's a lot of outfielders in Major League Baseball. Kyle Schwarber still plays the outfield, and Castellanos still plays the outfield. Like, there's plenty of outfielders out there who are not very good defenders. He's one of the worst so far this year. So it doesn't just start and end with his performance at the plate. He's just not good all around right now. And I'm definitely not taking my victory lap on when I preach, do not take Juan Soto to win the MVP. I think the lack of protection in his lineup, I think the fact that he's not playing well on defense. I think this bad Nationals team, I don't know. This is just conjecture because I don't know any other way to describe it, because it's not like his swing is off. It could just be a timing thing. But I think it's now a collection of just being on a shit team with no protection in your lineup and no real chance to win every day. Because when you look at the starting pitcher for the day, you get more confidence in you when you see a Steven Strasburg at the peak of his powers. He's pitching. It's like, all right, we're due for a win today. Or even Patrick Corbin a couple of years ago, maybe. But now it's like you get up for Josiah Gray, who's fine. You get up for Patrick Corbin? No.
You get up for Strasburg.
You get up for Yohan Adon? No. Who are you getting up for? Nobody. It's tough for Juan Soto right now.
Yeah, it's really tough. I don't have the defensive metrics in front of me right now. For some reason, Savant isn't pulling up his bubbles for me at the moment. Do you have the metrics in front of you?
Like what? For his offense, or?
I'm looking for defense. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
He's second percentile and outs above average.
Yeah. I mean,
that's brutal.
He's one of the worst defenders in the outfield in all of baseball. Let's just see, like, for example, I'm looking at the entire leaderboard of just where he sits right now with all defenders. Out of 260 defenders this year that qualify in terms of outs above average, 260. Where do you think he ranks?
Well,
you saw second percentile in outfield. So
yeah, I assume bottom 7.
Yeah, he's 249th out of 260.
Yeah, so bottom 11 of outfielders. Andrew Vaughn is the only worse defensive outfielder in baseball in terms of outs above average. Can't do that if you're Juan Soto.
And I know I just made silent for all those watching on YouTube. I kind of just did that's what I'm talking about kind of face.
Yeah. Soto's still got an 830 OPS.
Yeah,
Vladdy's got an 816. But Vladdy's got an 816 OPS. And that's all Vladdy's game is. You're not asking him to be a good first baseman. You're pretty much asking him to be a DH that has a glove on half the time.
Yes.
And an 816 OPS for a guy who had an 1,002 OPS last year is kind of crazy. And I don't know, like, tangibly what he's doing different right now. I don't tangibly know how pitchers are attacking him differently right now.
We talked about it, remember? We talked about it when Mike Petriello's article. He broke it down.
More breaking balls.
It's like, no, it's the high velo that's getting to him. He's seen the hardest amount of fastballs this year. Like, they quantified that. He's seen the highest velocity of fastballs at 94.5 miles an hour, and pitchers are going low in the zone against him because they realize that he can hit that high fastball pretty easily. He did it very well last year. So they're now attacking him low in the zone with high heat and just spinning him to death. I mean, he's still hitting the ball extremely hard. All the advanced metrics are saying, yeah, he's going to be totally fine. And the eye test, I would say he's going to be totally fine because Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can hit with the best of them. But a 50% ground ball rate from Vladimir Guerrero Jr., it's because everything's low in the zone. He's just pounding balls into the ground, and they're being hit very hard because it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but everything's on the ground, Jack.
Yeah. Curious, like, what do you see? Because you say he passes the eye test. I'm curious.
Because the swing looks great, and he's still hitting the living shit out of the ball, but it's just on the ground. And he also, what I've been noticing too, is that, and Blue Jays fans, I hope that you'll back me up on this, and maybe I'm wrong about this, and maybe it's just from watching the Blue Jays games that I've seen, but he misses first pitch fastball all the time, Jack. And it looks like he's trying to unload on that pitch. And it's like he swings out of his shoes. I was just watching him yesterday, against, who's he facing? He's facing Devin Smeltzer of the Twins. He's facing Dylan Bundy too. Just fastballs right down the middle, just swinging through him. Looks like he's trying to hit a home run on every pitch. Yeah. That's my thinking here. That's what it looks like to me.
I hear you. Vladdy Jr. has the highest swinging percentage on pitches outside the strike zone of his entire career. So he's chasing a lot. In terms of swinging strike percentage, it's actually lower by 1% right now. But he's swinging at more pitches. He's swinging at like 4% more pitches. So he's just expanding his zone a little bit more is the understanding from looking at the Fangraphs page and all that. One guy that I do want to talk about for a moment, and it was good that he was on Sunday Night Baseball last night, is Paul Goldschmidt. And I just did not see this shit ever coming again. Like, I thought that Paul Goldschmidt was in Arizona, and I thought that he could be an all-star first baseman. I didn't think Paul Goldschmidt, 50 games into the year, he's played 53 games. I didn't think 343 with a 1031 OPS was possible for Paul Goldschmidt.
I do think it's going to regress a little bit. Clearly, because it has to.
It has to.
I want you to pull up his splits right now. Have you seen his numbers?
Yeah.
Against left-handed pitching this
season? Against lefties, Paul Goldschmidt in 40 at-bats is hitting 500. He's 20 for 40.
It's the best. He's the best hitter against left-handed pitching right now that I've ever seen. That, again, one of my faults. Maybe, but like 500?
What do you think his OPS is against lefties in 40 at-bats?
1,800?
1,500, 1,474.
It was 1,800 not that long ago.
He's slugging 900 against left-handed pitching.
It's every lefty, he sends them home.
Yeah.
Home. Not to the locker room. Home.
Yeah. Back to AAA?
No. Home. Out of the league. Home.
Love it. We got to give some guys more love.
Let's do it.
I'm going to start with some pitchers. You want to start with the pitchers too, and then we go to hitters?
Sure.
All right, let's do, I'll go first, then you, then me, then you.
Sounds good.
Eric Lauer's 5-1, and he's got a 2.38 ERA. And Lauer was the 5th sexiest guy in this starting rotation coming into the year, because obviously you had the reigning Cy Young winner in Corbin Burns. You had a guy that was holding opponents to like a 120 batting average in Freddie Peralta, who's now on the mend for a while. Brandon Woodruff throws every pitch 98 miles an hour, which was really cool. And Woodruff is getting a little bit better at the moment, but he's still not Brandon Woodruff of old. And then you got Aaron Ashby, who is that young, exciting left-handed arm. And Ashby has that crazy arm side run. If you saw that and that great duel he had with Mackenzie Gore, I made that game appointment television because I was like, wow, dude, what a matchup that is between two young lefties with disgusting stuff and gonads. That's what I love about that. And you see two winning ball clubs that are well above 500, and you see those two duel it out. And Ashby looked good in the early innings. They got to him later. Mackenzie Gore looked awesome again. He punched out 10 in 6 innings. But then you had Eric Lauer and that 13 strikeout game on Sunday Night Baseball against the Phillies. That was great. Perfect. Angel Hernandez helped him out big time. But through 10 starts, he's got 65 punch outs in 56 and 2/3 innings. And he's got a 217 opponent batting average. There's something clicking for Eric Lauer. And at the end of the day, a lot of his rotation mates might have better stuff, but Eric Lauer throws 93 to 95 miles an hour, and he's got really good breaking stuff, and he locates it really well. That's a guy that's the best 4 in baseball right now.
He's hard to understand because when you watch him, his stuff doesn't jump off the page. I don't think his command within the strike zone is elite. I don't think his overall command at all is elite. And he doesn't throw that hard, but he is effective. How long will it last? I don't know, but my phone always drops every single episode. And it always takes me off my train of thought.
You're good.
What I was saying is basically, I think that Eric Lauer is a good pitcher. I just don't know how long he's going to have an ERA under 3. That's my thing. I do like him, but I see some regression coming his way. Like Jack, he has a 33% whiff rate on his fastball. That's the most of any of his pitches. I don't think that pitch elicits that. That almost doesn't make sense to me.
So he's throwing his fastball at 93.6 on average. So he's got a 94 mile an hour heater, and he runs it up to 95, 96. He throws it less than 40% of the time because he goes to the slider a lot, 24% usage so far. Opponents are hitting 127 against his slider. That's turned into an amazing pitch. And it's a hard slider with somehow like a lot of movement, and he can backdoor it effectively. So this is a guy that can come at you with 96 and then backdoor an 89 mile an hour slider that you can't do any damage against because the expected batting average on that is 159. So nobody's putting him in play really well. I know. Hard contact rate of 24%. Like, listen, hard contact rate I've used, but anything with a lowercase x, I shudder a teensy bit. Just a teensy bit. But when I see that opponents are hitting 127 with a 156 WOBA, a 163 BABIP, and an expected batting average of 159, you can't deny those numbers by saying, oh, like that pitch is due for a regression. No, that's just a really fucking good pitch now.
Not that pitch, not the slider. I'm talking about the fastball.
I know. The fastball opponents are hitting 192. The expected batting average is 209. So even now, that's not that big of a difference. It's a good fastball.
I agree. It has to be a good fastball because the numbers would say it'd be a good fastball. I guess it's, again, that's just, I don't get a ton of like confidence from Eric Lauer that he's really taken this huge next step in his development. But to your point, how about the 3 speeds? Because you talk about that all the time with Eric Lauer, because he also has the curveball that he's throwing around 78. So he can be 95 or 94-ish, like 94, 87, 78. That's 3 speeds. That's just tough to time up too. So maybe what I'm thinking is that like the stuff doesn't jump off the table, but the stuff works really well together. So that curveball that they're waiting on at 78, that slider that they're waiting on at 87, the 94 miles an hour looks like 97 because of those 3 different speeds. That could be the reason too.
And I don't care how many dudes throw 99 right now. 96 is still fucking hard as hell.
And from a lefty, still fast.
It's still fast. And from a slight frame lefty like him, like he looks like a small, skinny guy on the mound. And also, we talk about
73rd percentile in fastball spin. So it's spinning hard.
Yeah, it is spinning hard. It's let's see.
2,300 RPM.
2,300. Yeah, 2,300. 2,296. So just shy of 2,300. He can get that up with literally one fastball. But yeah, I mean, like Lauer's got a great pitch mix. And I think this is a guy that flies under the radar because he's not a hulking human being and he doesn't throw 98. But again, 3 speeds got Reed Detmers a no-hitter. 3 speeds has Eric Lauer with what a 2.38 ERA. I mean, I'm here for it.
I'm here for it too. No, I believe in Eric Lauer. I guess my point about Eric Lauer is like, is he a 2.38 ERA guy? Like we were talking about Martin Perez.
I think he's a 2.6 guy.
Wow. I mean, that's elite. That's elite, Jack.
I think he can do that this year.
We'll see. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just kind of hard to believe, but we'll see. We'll see. How about my next pitcher? So on Twitter, I asked you all, pick one for your bullpen. Clay Holmes of the New York Yankees, who has the 2nd best ERA in all of baseball. Or Ryan Helsley of the St. Louis Cardinals. And Clay Holmes dominated the poll.
Yes.
Absolutely dominated the poll. But Ryan Helsley might be just better. If you look at Ryan Helsley's, maybe not.
No.
Oh, it's close. But that's how good Ryan Helsley has been this year. I'm not saying that Clay Holmes, I think Clay Holmes probably is a better overall reliever, but if I'm talking about the production to this point of players who need more love, that's why I think it was so close. And I saw the poll at like 78% versus 24% or 22%. I don't know the math on that. Ryan Helsley is right there. 100th percentile in xERA is the 2nd best xERA, 2nd best ERA in all of baseball at 0.42. He's got 30 strikeouts in 21 innings, a microscopic 0.52 FIP. He's striking out nearly 41% of batters, and he doesn't give up hard hit at all. And what does it start with? The fastball that averages 99 miles an hour. But it's not just the fastball, Jack. He also has this crazy good slider that even he has a 154 batting average against the pitch. How about a 127 expected batting average? So not only can hitters not touch it right now, but the numbers are telling us that it could get even better. And if we're talking about 3 speeds, he doesn't throw the curveball that much. It's only about 10%, but he throws it around 79 to 80 miles an hour. So you're gearing up in your head for 100 with high spin. Let's see, what percentile is he in fastball spin? 99th percentile in fastball.
Yeah, he's got a 20. He's got a 2,600 RPM fastball.
It's coming in at 100. Then you got to get ready for an 89 mile an hour slider, which it's not 94 or something, which can sometimes be less effective because of the speed difference. No, it's 89 with a ton of movement. It's almost like a slurve.
Yeah.
No, not really, but kind of. It's so freaking good that you can classify it as whatever you want.
You mentioned the 3 speeds. I also like that, 103 is 103. And like those guys are going to get paid a lot of money. They're going to stick around for 10 years in Major League Baseball until they're throwing 94 like Chapman. But the beauty of 103 is a hitter has to compute. Am I going to see 103 right now? And chances are, if they're trying to figure that out, they can't catch up to 103 because nobody can, even when they know it's coming. And then if you're not seeing it, you're seeing a really good slider and a taste breaker of a curveball. So like if you have 2 good pitches and you only have to throw an inning at a time, it's game over. And that's what we see from Clay Holmes. That's what we see from Clase. That's what we saw from Karinchak when he was using his crazy stuff. Like that's what we see from a hater too.
Yeah.
Helsley has 2 pitches. He's not just blow up the radar gun. And people forget about Craig Kimbrell and Aroldis Chapman because they always think fastball. Kimbrell, that rising 98. Chapman, they think the guy that hit 105. Guess what? Chapman had some disgusting breaking pitches. He's got a splitter that's crazy. And in the beginning of his career, he had this slider that was nuts. Craig Kimbrell has that knuckle curve. That's a hammer of a curveball. Everybody's got two pitches that are good. If you have one pitch, you're not going to be that good. You might get some strikeouts, but you're going to walk a lot of guys because people are going to start reading it. And you're also going to allow hits in bunches. I think that's why Brusdar Graterol doesn't strike out as many guys as he does, because he has one pitch.
You're ready for it.
You're ready.
And that's the thing that makes Helsley so effective as well, is that curveball that's just 10% of the time. I'm not saying that's the reason he's effective, but in the back of a hitter's mind, you know that there's a possibility of a 79-mile-an-hour curveball off 103, off an 89-mile-an-hour slider. And Jack, do you know how many hits he's given off the curveball so far?
The curveball, he's only thrown like 30 times, right? I assume zero.
Zero is correct. But just the fact that it's zero.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, so his curveball function, and we talked about it last year, Carlos Rodon inserted that curveball. He's still doing it. When Rodon is good, he's using the curveball 6 or 7 times a start. 100 pitches, he's only going to throw it 6 times, but it comes out of nowhere. That's Helsley's thing. Comes out of nowhere.
And that's so effective, especially when you're in for an inning and you're like, oh, this is the guy 103. Then he goes first pitch curveball, and you're just in a blender. You have no idea what to do. I wouldn't have any idea. Well, making me sound like I would have no idea what to do doesn't really do well for the argument, because I mean, I wouldn't know what to do with any of these guys, but you understand the point.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Next guy for me, because we talk about Helsley being great. We can obviously talk about Clay Holmes, and I mean, Hader's a stud. Like Hader, I don't think anybody has ever given Hader the flowers that he deserves.
Facts.
But
we call him the best. It's just, we have to understand that because also relievers are so up and down, and he's been so consistent now forever.
No, he's just been the top dog. But a guy that's top 5 right now has a 1.33 ERA in 27 innings. It's David Bednar with the Pirates. And Bednar, he didn't come out of nowhere. He was really good coming up with the Padres system. And he had this crazy, like they called it, it was almost like a split. It was like a splitter, but a cutter at the same time, like a splutter. Yeah, they called it a splutter. So it was like a splitter with cutting action. And that's turned into his splitter as it's classified now. He doesn't throw the splitter that often, 13% of the time. He throws the fastball 60% of the time. It's a 97-mile-an-hour fastball coming from a hefty righty, 6'1", 250. He's power. And he's got a 78-mile-an-hour curveball that he throws a lot too. Bednar is a power pitcher that looks like a power pitcher. And then that curveball is one of the best pitches that he throws. It's pretty fun.
Have you seen the curveball production so far?
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
He's thrown it 106 times so far this year. He throws it about 27% of the time.
Not a single hit.
Not a single hit.
Because you see him run in and you see him throw all these fastballs, and you're gearing up 97, 97, 97. Again, he throws the 4-seam fastball 60% of the time. So he lulls you into this quick hypnosis. It only takes like 3 pitches. And then he drops that curveball on you. How are you going to adjust from 97 to 77?
How? You can't. He can't.
He's thrown the splitter 53 times. He's allowed 1 single.
This is the guy who should be on the trade market. The guy. If you are a team looking for bullpen help, look no farther than Pittsburgh Pirates right-handed pitcher David Bednar. The 27-year-old, Jack said it himself, coming up with the Padres, 6'1", 250, bulky, dog in him, 100th percentile. David Bednar could be a huge addition for somebody at the deadline, and especially for a team like, I don't know, the Red Sox, team like the Phillies. You know, there's a lot of teams that could definitely use him, and I feel like you're going to get David Bednar at the trade deadline and think, oh, who's David Bednar? And then we're going to see David Bednar in big-time situations for a playoff team and watch him dominate.
You know, he's got team control, though. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a big-time return to go get Bednar. Like similar to, and it was a unique situation with Kimbrel, but Kimbrel looked like vintage Kimbrel. The White Sox had to give up Cody Hoyer, who can be a legitimate major league closer when he comes back, and Nick Madrigal, who is an everyday second baseman. So you might have to give up an everyday young big leaguer and a very promising reliever prospect, or you might have to give up 2 good prospects to go get this guy because of how good he is and how much team control he has.
Would you do it?
If I needed one that badly, it depends on the team. Like the Dodgers could go do it. If they felt like they needed another guy and like Kimbrel's just not doing it for them and they needed a closer, go do it. Because they have the assets to work with. But the Red Sox, like, I don't think they have much to play with, and they're going to ask for a guy that should be untouchable in your eyes. Like the Pirates could realistically say a Bednar deal doesn't get started without Brian Bale. And the Red Sox have to say, fuck no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like you have to say, fuck no.
Bednar for Jarren Duran and a filler will not work.
Especially with how well Duran's been playing. And you know what stinks? At least for Jarren Duran and possibly for Red Sox fans, depending on who you like. Jackie Bradley Jr. was on paternity leave. Congratulations, Jackie Bradley Jr. had his 3rd child. Amazing. And he's now back. And Jarren Duran was basically on the taxi squad and was then sent down. I think after today's game, we'll see that because Jackie Bradley Jr. is back. And that's what we heard out of Boston. That stinks. Jarren Duran has clearly figured something out. In the minors, he's been raking. And now in the majors, he's hitting over 300. And you're going to send him down for Jackie Bradley Jr. again? I don't think that's the right move, especially because the Red Sox are one of the best teams in baseball lately. They've been raking. And they're hitting Jarren Duran leadoff too. Why are you sending him down? I don't understand it.
I don't know.
I mean, I do understand it, but they shouldn't.
They shouldn't. No, I mean, like Jarren Duran's just a better baseball player at this point than Jackie Bradley Jr. is.
That's what I'm saying.
Shout out Heim. Heim knows what he's doing.
Yeah, hashtag gold bottles or whatever.
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to my next guy. We talk about Julio Urias. We talk about Walker Buehler. And of course, we talk about Clayton Kershaw, who has been on the shelf. But these are the guys that we talk about when we talk about the Dodgers rotation. But there is one man in the Dodgers rotation that is one of the best pitchers in baseball right now and just needs more love. I know he's on the Dodgers, but I feel like he just gets dampened in LA with all the stars there, but he is becoming a star of his own. And that's Tony Gonsolin, the 6'3", 200-pound right-hander. The 28-year-old is finally coming into his own. He has not lost a game. Say what you want about pitcher wins. 6-0, pretty damn cool. 1.59 ERA. He's not the crazy strikeout artist, but he doesn't allow hard contact at all in the 98th percentile of hard hit rate. And that gives him a 2.60 xERA because he just doesn't allow hard contact. There was a fastball, 93 to 94 miles an hour. He's got a disgusting splitter that opponents are only hitting 125 against. Super low spin rate on that pitch. It's a great wipeout pitch, but the slider might be his best wipeout pitch. Opponents are only hitting 070 against it. And then he also has a curveball, which you can throw in there as his kind of 3-speed because he's 94, he's 87 with the slider, he's 84 with the splitter, and he's around 79 to 80 with the curveball. So all of these different speeds have made Tony Gonsolin into just a fantastic pitcher. And what really has happened too is that his command has just gotten so much better, not only when you look at the walk rates, but when you look out within the strike zone as well. I mean, Jack, you see those heat maps. Look at that split fingers, placing it firmly in the strike zone when he needs it, getting it to dive out of the zone when he needs it. The slider is backdooring on lefties into righties, and the curveball he can basically place wherever he wants. Tony Gonsolin is pitching at the top of his game right now, and he's also a guy who works quickly, surgical, fun to watch. Tony Gonsolin is a guy to watch this season, as Tyler Anderson as well has been phenomenal. And Tony Gonsolin has been as well. That's what's holding the Dodgers up because we haven't seen the same Walker Buehler, have not seen the same Julio Urias. And Clayton Kershaw himself has been dealing with stuff. It's Tony Gonsolin and Tyler Anderson at the back end dominating for the Dodgers.
Yeah, and Tony Gonsolin, you look at limiting run production against him. Tony Gonsolin has allowed 2 runs in a start 3 times, and that's the only time he's allowed multiple runs. I'm just like rapid fire earned runs against him.
Pretty good.
Starts this year. 1-0-0-2-1-0-2-1-2-0. That's yes, please. The only reason I will never like Tony Gonsolin is he's got that weird obsession with cats. And I hate cats. I think it's so weird if you're like a cat guy and you totally like absorb that as part of your personality. Like his personality is cats. He's a cat owner. And it's just kind of odd to me.
Tony Gonsolin, confirmed cat lover. My thing is, I almost feel like on the other side, I owe him an apology because I have kind of said that I don't really believe in Tony Gonsolin. I've said that before, and I'm willing to say now that I think I'm wrong on that. I think he's just a really good pitcher, and I think I took some of his cat loving and said he doesn't have he doesn't have it mentally.
Turn it into negative energy. Yeah, the feline prowess. Here's the thing about Tony Gonsolin. He's always thrown mid-90s, and he's always had really good secondary pitches. It's just the secondary pitches are so good. And I mean, like, you look at the splitter, you mentioned opponents hitting 125 against it. How about the slider? There are 3 hits against it. He's thrown it 186 times. He's thrown the curveball 110 times. There are no hits against it. So that's the thing, man. And like he throws the fastball 35% of the time. It's a 94 mile an hour fastball. That shit's going to play. And if you only throw it 35%, that means you're working with 3 really effective off-speed pitches 65% of the time. The majority of every at-bat that a guy will see you. And if you can keep somebody on their heels for the entirety of an at-bat, that just suits you well because we see so many guys that are mistake hitters now. They were few and far between in as recently as the mid-2000s. Like I think Adam Dunn, Ryan Howard was the best mistake hitter at the time. Like a lot of those power hitters were mistake hitters. Now, it feels like everybody's a mistake hitter where they're just waiting on that one fastball that's down the deck and they're going to send it to the moon. There are only a few guys that can actually put good wood on your best pitch. Mookie Betts is one of those right now. There are not a lot of guys built like Mookie Betts. And the good news for Tony Gonsolin is Mookie Betts is on his team.
Pretty good one to have. I know I made the joke where it was like, I just didn't believe in Tony Gonsolin because of his cat prowess. That wasn't it. It was the fact that last year he rocked a walk rate over 14% and had a 3.23 ERA. And my thinking was, if his command is not there, and we haven't really seen his command, actually in 2020, he looked pretty good, but it was in a very small sample as well. Well, I mean, he's just never had that big of a sample also because he's been dealing with injuries. Like 2021 was his most healthy year in terms of games started because he had 13 starts and he had 34 walks in 55 innings. My thinking was, all right, this guy just gets hurt. Although the stuff in itself is nasty, he can't really command it. But guess what he's doing this year? He's commanding the shit out of it. Now he's got an 8.7% walk rate, which is still not great, but he's got a 1.59 ERA. So he can be a bit wild, but still be incredibly effective. And I think that's where I didn't realize he could be this good.
Yeah, I hear you. Pitchers or hitters?
Hitters.
My first one is Christopher Morel with the Cubs. Mm-hmm. This guy's come up and just like, he gets on base all the time. And the Cubs are playing pretty well at the moment. And a lot of it has to do with Frank Schwindel getting really hot, but Christopher Morel being great. Christopher Morel in 20 games has an 849 OPS because he's hitting 291 with a 380 OBP. And Morel, he was doing this with AA Tennessee. And this is another guy that has made the jump from AA right to Major League Baseball, AA South in particular, the Southern League.
22 years old.
He's 22 years old. But you know what he was doing in AA Tennessee? In 28 games, he was hitting 306 with a 945 OPS. Now he's hitting 291. He's got an 100-point-ish jump into OBP, and he's got an 849 OPS. I'm not saying this is sustainable. 111 games between double and triple last year. He had a 729 OPS. I think that it would probably end up around there. But if you're going to ride a hot hand, do it. I mean, the Cubs literally have nothing to lose right now. Christopher Morel was going to come up. He was going to accumulate the service time this year anyways. You might as well just let him ride up here. And if he's providing you that spark and that fun, live with it, man. I think Christopher Morel is going to be an exciting big leaguer for a decade. I do.
Interesting. You think that highly of him?
I do, because, I saw what he was doing in double and triple last year. And I've always known that Cubs fans are really high on Christopher Morel when he was coming up. And the Cubs have one of the best fan bases when it comes to following prospects. They know what's going on. They know that Pete Crow Armstrong is raking. They know that, like a certain guy is struggling. But a name that I always heard was Christopher Morel. Like, oh, I really like what this guy could do for us. And then all of a sudden he comes up and you see it, and you see the excitement that he plays with. Doesn't he kind of feel like a more fundamentally sound and more disciplined Javi Baez when he first came up too? Because he's exciting. He's infectious. He's got the infectious personality. He doesn't have the pop. He has nowhere close to the amount of pop that a young Baez had.
You're talking about the energy.
I'm talking about the energy, and I'm talking about the impact that he can make on a 30-something that's sharing the left side of the infield with him. Morel played center yesterday.
I think one of the coolest moments of the season was Christopher Morel had a walk-off hit. And right before it, like right before the pitch was delivered, right when Morel, calls time and steps out of the box for a second, he looks over and Wilson Contreras just gives him this.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath, kid. Immediate hit. Does the same thing. He looks over at Wilson. Wilson gives him the, and then he does the same thing. Immediate walk-off hit. That was one of the coolest things live I've seen this season. And that was just a cool thing I've seen. But another cool thing about Christopher Morel is that sometimes you would expect maybe, oh, Morel's just killing fastballs, but then they're going to start spinning him. And then he might have some problems. And that could happen, because he is hitting 354 off fastballs, but he's hitting 250 off breaking balls. He has a double. He has two doubles. He has some singles. He hasn't killed them, but it's not like, oh, he's hitting 450 on fastballs and 150 off breaking balls. And you're like, okay, as soon as they start seeing him more, they're just going to spin him to death and he's going to go back into the sunken place. I don't know about that. He's pretty exciting.
He's walking a lot right now.
Yeah, just disciplined.
I think that the discipline's actually going to stay there. And that was a change that he made this year. 10 walks in 28 games. Like, that's solid enough. But 11 walks in 20 games at the big league level, totally here for it. Last year, that wasn't necessarily there, but you can see some of the corrections in the approach just by looking at him. Just by looking at him analytically. So I do think Morel is here to stay. Do I think that he is a perennial all-star? Absolutely not. But do I think that he is a major league baseball player for the next 10 years? I do. And I think that he's going to provide some really good stuff to the Cubs if they hold him or if they ship him off.
I like it. Let's talk about another guy who I've been so impressed by his discipline. And he's just 1 year older than Morel, which is interesting because you might think that Alejandro Kirk might be 25 or 26. The guy is 23 years old, and he is putting up some of the best at-bats that I've seen from hitters this year. And the numbers would back that up. He's hitting 307 with a 389 on base percentage, 471 slugging to give him an 860 OPS. He's got 5 bombs, and he's 5'8", 245 pounds. So he's not going to affect anything on the base pass. That's why he's in the 7th percentile in sprint speed, and he's got 0 stolen bases. But he's a catcher. And of catchers that qualify, he is 2nd in WRC plus in the entire league. That's how good Alejandro Kirk has been. And when we're talking about guys, like, how do you get him out? Is this a guy you can spin to death? Is this a guy gets blown up by velo? No and no. 329 batting average against fastballs with 350 expected batting average. He's hitting 316 off speed pitches, 250 off breaking balls with a 270 expected batting average off breaking balls. He doesn't really strike out at all. He's in the 98th percentile in K rate. And the thing is, it's not just the bat. Does Alejandro Kirk kind of have a noodle arm? Yeah, kind of. But is he one of the best framers in baseball right now on top of the offense? Yes. So a 23-year-old who has incredible discipline, is showing power, hitting 300, and is one of the best framers in the sport at 23 years old, if he wasn't 5'8", 245, so many more people would be incredibly excited about this guy. But he looks like a stuffed animal.
Shouldn't 5'8", 245 make him more endearing? He looks like when he's catching, he looks like he's the dad sitting on the paint bucket catching his kid's bullpen.
That's the thing. Like, I think there's endearing guys, and then there's guys who just straight up look out of shape. Like,
he looks out of shape. Like,
now, Prince Fielder looked endearing. Alejandro Kirk looks out of shape.
Yeah.
But with all that said, doesn't seem to matter.
Kirk looks like Vogelbach's mini-me.
Yeah. Kind of. Like, that's
not kind of. He looks like Vogelbach's mini-me.
The crazy thing is, I think he's like 6 inches shorter and like 20 pounds lighter. Like, and Dan Vogelbach is a big old boy.
This is from yesterday morning from Jonah Bierenbaum on Twitter at Bierenball. Only
That's
3 players. Yeah, that is a good one. Only 3 players, the minimum of 160 plate appearances, have walked more times than they've struck out this season while posting an isolated power of 150 or higher. Jose Ramirez, Juan Soto, Alejandro Kirk.
Not a bad list to be on.
That's great company for Alejandro Kirk.
23 years old. That's the main point of this. He's a 23-year-old doing this because I thought he was older. I really thought he was 25, 26 years old. 23.
The Jays are in an amazing situation where they can either have Kirk be a DH when Moreno comes up,
whatever they want,
or they can ship one of them off and go get a perennial all-star.
Yep.
Like this, Kirk and Moreno are providing Yohan Moncada type value when the Red Sox shipped off Moncada for Chris Sale.
And I hope this take doesn't go stale because it really could. If you're the Blue Jays, do you consider trading Gabriel Moreno more? Because what we've seen from Kirk is that he seems to be the real deal here. And with Gabriel Moreno, you're going to get more of the allure of the prospect. When if you have an MLB ready catcher right now, 91st percentile in framing, but then my also thinking is Alejandro Kirk does not become a good defensive catcher if we have robo umpires, which could happen. The framing gets taken out of the equation. And then he's got a noodle arm and he's not that great of a blocker and he's not that athletic back there. But that's fugazi. But it is something to know. It's like if we're ever going to get robot umpires in 3 years, just it's more of a thought to keep in your back pocket.
It's so funny hearing how much those players hate those robo umps.
I know.
It makes sense. Funny. I was talking to,
unless they were all 100% accurate and fast, like you got to hate them.
No, it's accurate and fast, but I was talking to Jason DeLay, who was a catcher at Vandy for like Fulmer, Beatty, Bueller. He's an Indianapolis Indian right now. He's Pirates AAA. And I was talking to DeLay because they were using the automated strike zone in Charlotte. They were using TrackMan, and the home plate umpire was just wearing an earpiece and hearing ball or strike, what to call. And DeLay caught the majority of that series. And I asked him what he thought about that. And he said, I felt useless. Because my whole thing is being a defensive catcher. Like my whole thing is helping my pitcher out. My whole thing is buying guys strikes. And when you take something that I work on for several hours a day out of my toolbox, I'm pissed.
Makes sense. But does that mean it's going to be stopped?
No, but I don't know. I'm just beating a dead horse with this. Like, I really do just think that we need better human umpires. I think robotic umpires would be brutal. And I think some of these idiots need to get out. I think we need a better vetting process, and we need to stay with human umpires.
Because I still will always love the manager sprinting out of the dugout to have the full on yelling with the umpire, which would just never happen anymore, which I love that part of the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would just make it a little bit more boring. Like the human element is great. And replay is important because we don't need another Armando Galarraga situation where Jim Joyce just, fucks him. But we don't need a boring lack of intensity game where you just say, oh, the computer told me that was a ball. I guess that's a ball.
Well, your next player definitely doesn't have any lack of intensity.
Benintendi. That team has a lot less intensity than I think most.
Trying to hype them up.
Yeah, no, I go ahead and try and do that. But all I want to say is Andrew Benintendi is turning himself into maybe the best available outfielder on the trade market this year.
Good spin zone. I like
that. Like I do think that Benintendi is setting himself up to get a good payday next year, and B, help a contending team this year. Because I don't know if the Pirates are going to move off of Brian Reynolds. I don't know if Baltimore is going to move off of Cedric Mullins. And those are the two names that everybody is in love with. But, the question was going to be, okay, this might be a thin hitter market. Who's going to be good? Benintendi's hitting 320 with an 800 OPS. I want an outfielder hitting 320 with an 800 OPS on my team if I'm looking for an October run.
Do you believe him? Do you believe in this? Because like a 321 batting average, he's not hitting for that much power. He is walking at a decent rate. He's walking above average.
He's had his power zapped entirely.
Not that great of a defender.
Here's what I'll say though. That I think is a conscious correction that he has made. He's not trying to hit 20 anymore. He's trying to pop out 10, but he's trying to hit 320 and not 260.
Do you have his BABIP in front of you?
I don't have his BABIP. I can go get it though.
Because I'm saying if that BABIP is really, really high, it's hard for me to believe that he's this good of a hitter. It really is, just because he's hitting a ton more balls on the ground this year. I don't know, but you're right. It's like you look at the stats and you say, yeah, he's going to be a valuable trade candidate, and he's probably going to get a decent sized contract because he's shown that he can be a good hitter before, and he was a great prospect, out of college. He's a Golden Spikes winner. But what's the BABIP?
The BABIP is 370.
That's going to regress.
Okay. But let me tell you this. This is the first year in Benny's career that he has an isolated power under 100, and this is the best WRC plus of his career by a country mile. You don't need to hit homers to be a productive offensive piece. I think Benintendi can be a leadoff guy for a contender that is looking for a leadoff guy.
But my thing is, when you don't hit the ball that hard and most of your balls are on the ground and your BABIP is so high, that makes me think that those ground balls are going to start finding infielders, and that he's not going to be able to piece, the hole between, the 5-6 hole or, the 4-3 hole. Like, he won't be able to get through these every single time like he has been. And I feel like that will start to normalize.
Benintendi is second in baseball in BABIP right now, or he's 11th in baseball. Pardon. I have no idea where second came from. He's 11th in baseball in BABIP. Here's who's in front of him. JD Martinez, Miguel Cabrera has a 400 BABIP.
That's
Paul
insane.
Goldschmidt.
Yeah.
Luis Ariz has a 393 BABIP. Xander Bogaerts, Garrett Cooper, Tim Anderson, Rafael Devers, Chris Taylor, and Julio Rodriguez.
But it's like we go through all those guys, and there's an excuse in there for a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like an excuse for the reason why their BABIP is so high. Like Paul Goldschmidt, his BABIP is so high is because he's hitting everything for power. Everything's line drives, and he's crushing the ball. So most of the things he hits is in the gaps. Like JD Martinez, same thing. Rafael Devers, same thing. And then you look at some of the other guys, like Julio Rodriguez has incredible speed.
So
Tim Anderson, incredible speed. And Tim Anderson is always a BABIP guy because he just can do it.
11 guys on this list. 11. Of the 11 guys that I just mentioned, Andrew Benintendi has the third lowest K rate, and he's got the fifth highest walk rate. Why can't he do it? And even if the BABIP goes down 20 points to 350, he can still hit 315 in a leadoff spot.
My thinking is if he hits 280 this year with no power and no real speed and below average defense,
I'm just telling you, he's not going to hit 280. He's changed his game offensively to the point where he's not going to hit 18 bombs again. He'll hit 6, but he's not going to hit 260 again. He'll hit 310.
My thinking is he has to, for him to be valuable with 6 home runs and a little bit of below average defense and no real speed on the base pass that's going to, impact the game completely like a Bobby Witt Jr. or like a Whit Merrifield or something. He has to hit 320. Yeah. And I just don't know if he's going to.
I think he can.
And if he does, then he is. Then he's valuable. 320 is 320. But a guy like Luis Ariz is hitting 350. He just puts bat on ball like nobody. He just doesn't strike out ever.
I'm just thinking, though, like a very bad baseball team. Benintendi's on a very bad baseball team right now. Ariz is not going to be available. He's the best. at the trade deadline.
Oh, yeah. You're totally right. Yeah.
Benintendi is going to be available because he's got that contract that they're just going to move for a rental. Like, I think he is the best available outfielder at the moment.
I would still take Cedric. I would take Cedric Mullins.
I don't know if he's available because
that's the thing. Yeah, you're right.
Baltimore's showing promise.
Kind of.
Adley Rutschman's up. I count that as promise.
But Adley Rutschman ain't played well.
I still count a guy's presence as promise.
Facts. Did you hear what happened to Grayson?
No, I know he was out for a little bit.
He might be out for the season now.
With what?
The injury.
With what kind of injury? You can't say injury and not tell me what kind of injury. Grayson Rodriguez injury. God, my heart rate just went up. Lat. It's a lat strain? Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
All right, fuck.
It sucks.
They're not going to move Cedric Mullins.
That's what I'm saying.
They might move Cedric Mullins.
Adley ain't hitting right now. Grayson's out for the year. They might move Cedric Mullins.
Contenders would love
I don't know.
Cedric
I don't know if
Mullins
he's out for the year. That's what I heard this morning in our Prize Picks Twitter space.
Could
came on as a big Orioles fan. He's like, the word is that he will be out an extended period of time. Yeah, give it to me.
Yeah, from Zach Silver with MLB.com. He could be out until 2023.
Yeah, which sucks because he is amazing.
Yeah. All right, your last hitter.
My last hitter is another guy who I think I should be apologizing towards, but I want to see him continue to do this. But what Dansby Swanson of the Atlanta Braves has been doing is frankly fantastic right now. You know me, I'll go into it's incredible. No, but it's very good. It's very good. And it doesn't just stop offensively. We're going to talk about the offense right now, but I think you can make the argument that Dansby Swanson has been one of the most valuable defenders at shortstop this year. And that's the big development for him because we always knew he could hit. He's always going to hit. He may not hit 300, but he's going to hit between 260 to 280 with plenty of home runs. He almost hit 30 last year, plenty of RBIs, and he's going to steal you some bags. We knew that, but we didn't know he'd be 99th percentile on outs above average. 99th percentile, one of the most valuable defenders. And I gave him the barometer of average shortstop play because he was a fine defender, like fine as in average, and then he was a little bit above average of a hitter. But if you're telling me this is a guy who can hit you 265 to 270 with 25 to 30 home runs, he's already got 9 stolen bases, 6 home runs. So if this is a 20 stolen base guy who's in the 99th percentile of outs above average, this is a top 10 shortstop in baseball. And we have to remember that he's 28 years old and he was the first overall pick out of Vanderbilt. That this guy does have the potential to be this type of hitter. And he's acting like it. But the big development is the defense. I mean, this guy is humming on all sides of the ball for a Braves team that really, really needs him right now.
So slick defender and good defender are two different things. Dansby Swanson was always a slick defender. He was a good defender at Vandy. He always looked good because he had, like the flowing hair and the eye black and the compression sleeve. Great.
That's how Bobby Witt gets me. Like I could not even watch Bobby Witt play. Just look at him and be like, that's a ball player.
Dude looked slick as shit. Dansby Swanson has looked slick as shit for the entirety of his career. And now that's turning into being an elite defender. I thought he was always a good defender. I thought he was an above average defender and a slightly below average hitter. That was my view on Dansby Swanson, which is why he epitomized average. But Dansby is an elite defender and he's putting up the best offensive season of his entire career. The only one that comes close was 60 games long in 2020. He's going to shatter his stolen base mark. Most stolen bases he's had in a year is 10. He's 9 for 10 on the bags right now. He's hitting 274, which is great for him. He's got 6 bombs already. My thing with Dansby is, what does a contract for him look like? It's going to be 29 years old.
No idea. That's what I was going to ask you too. I have no idea. I have no idea what I pay. I have no idea. No idea.
So
so hard.
5 for 85.
Would you give that to him? I don't know.
I think so.
I think I would.
That's 29 through 34. His age 29 through 34 season.
Yeah.
5 for 85.
Yeah.
Would you go 5 for 100? That's a 20 million AAV guy. I don't think he's a 20 million AAV guy, but he's playing like one right now.
He's playing like one, certainly.
If you can find a short, that's my thing. If you can find a shortstop, just hold on to him for dear life, because there are so many teams with 8 mediocre shortstops.
I don't know what I'd pay him. I was thinking about this before the show too, and it was funny. I wasn't going to bring it up because I don't know what to pay him. I have no earthly idea. What I do know is that he has the same outs above average as Manny Machado and Christian Pache. Like, that's the level of defender that he is right now at a premium position at shortstop. It's phenomenal.
Again, 5 for 85. That's 17 million a year. If you can get away with a club option for the final year, great. I think that's the price.
JP Crawford just signed like a 5-year, $50 million deal? What did JP sign?
Dansby's better than JP Crawford.
Yeah, he is.
JP Crawford signed 5 for 51.
Yeah. How much better is he than JP Crawford? Because JP Crawford has not been good defensively, but we know that'll probably normalize. And he has been a good hitter.
Dude, he's got to make more than 5 for 51.
He has to. I agree. But 5 for 85 is a big jump.
If he keeps this up, 5 for 85, if he regresses a little bit and becomes slightly above average again, I see 5 for 70.
I agree. I think that's accurate. That'd be my best guess.
And it might not be Alex Anthopoulos. I hope it is. I hope it's Atlanta. I think Dansby is great in Atlanta.
I mean, knowing Anthopoulos, he's probably going to give him an 8-year deal for $80 million. Just be like, do you want it?
That'd be awesome. And Dansby would be like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're going to cut down the AAV a little bit, club options at the end, but we'll give you those 2 years. I mean, he's perfect. Like, if I were to handpick a GM and it's not Neander, if I had some money to work with, I think it's
You're about really?
Yeah, like I think Neander, but Friedman's obviously great at what he does. I don't know. I think
the Giants.
I would take Alex Anthopoulos over Farhan Zaidi.
I don't know. It's close, but regardless, he's in that conversation.
He's in that conversation.
They're all amazing. Yeah, we're splitting hairs.
You know, and Matt Olson had a really bad May after an awesome April, but that Olson deal is just going to be better than Freddie Freeman. I know that for a fact. Like, that's my thing. So I don't know. It's fascinating, man. I have no idea what the contract would look like.
Don't you have your last hitter, or did we just end it?
We just ended it.
Oh, good job. Good job.
Bye. Socials. Just Baseball Show on Instagram, Just Baseball Fans on TikTok, Just BB Media on Twitter. Loop.card/justbaseball.
Yeah, click the link. Click the link. You get free $20 just for downloading the Loop app. It's an absolute no-brainer, even if you don't like baseball cards. But you're listening to this podcast, you probably, be honest with yourself, you probably like baseball cards a little bit, and you like 20 free bucks, you can get some free ones.
Or give it a shot. Join our chalkboard. That link is in our episode description. Bet with us on Prize Picks. You're doing a Twitter space every day at 2 p.m. putting together the ultimate Prize Picks lineup.
The ultimate.
And I think JB merch, I think that's it, right?
With that, thank you, everybody.